This video goes over some sensitive and potentially triggering topics. If you are not comfortable with these, I suggest not watching this video. Audience alienating era, aka dork age. The commercial and or critical downturn of a franchise for a period of time, often marked by repeated failed attempts to keep it fresh. As much as I want to tell myself I've gotten better from my earliest days and still make enjoyable videos that my viewers will love, I can't lie to myself. These past few years haven't been the nicest of times for my channel. Genuinely, the last time I put out a video that I felt earnestly proud of myself for making was back in 2020, with my The Name Pun Turnabout skit on objection.lol. Most everything I've put out since then has either been just forgettably existent or actual garbage. In particular, last month saw the release of two of my most detested works in quite some time, my commentaries on Bumbles McFumbles and YouTube Dude 2. I don't see much of a point going over what went wrong with the former video. Doodletone's already explained my issues there, and I sorted things out with her privately regarding it. However, the latter video is still pretty relevant regarding how much I've run myself into a slump recently, so I thought I'd look back at my commentary on YouTube Dude, see what went wrong, and hopefully make sure not to repeat the mistakes in my future videos. I don't imagine this video will dissect every little issue I let slide, but at the very least, I hope it'll give a general rundown of the big things I realized looking back. If you want a more thorough look as to where my YouTube Dude commentary went wrong, I'll provide a link in the description to Muroki's commentary on me. While we're on the subject of videos on me, since I know there's going to be more on their way, I want to make clear that I'm not doing this video to render those commentaries redundant or deter the people from making them. I'd be a pretty big hypocrite to say people can't do commentaries on me, what with them being my main type of content on my channel. So if you're one of those people, then by all means, go right ahead. I'm interested to see what you have to say. Anyways, with all that cleared up, let's get this little look back started, shall we? If you told me back in 2018 that I would do a commentary on this video several years into the future, I would have most likely laughed you off as a wannabe clairvoyant. Alternatively, I may have said that such an event would only happen in one or two potential timelines out of the many potential futures this world would be heading towards, and ignored your prediction as an unlikely timeline of events. Well, that's me. I'd hate to break it to you, but the timeline where your future self commentated on the video in question is this one. So I hope you're happy with how it turned out if someone ever invents time travel and shows you this video from the future. Yeah, no, I'm not going to beat around the bush. This is just one big word salad. I didn't really need to be so extravagant over explaining that I used to like YouTube Dude's commentary only to notice problems later down the line, especially with that blatantly forced laughter in the middle.
This is Nihilistic Snake, the user we are covering today. You may be wondering who this guy is and what exactly we are covering from him. Well, for starters, he's a commentator. He's not a commentator looked fondly upon, but he's a commentator. If you want to delve deeper, he used to be known as Slothboy494. However, in May of last year, he decided to change his username because he wanted to start anew, considering he was getting lots of backlash at the time, and made his first commentary under the new username on a guy named Rush V, some chuckle nut who advocated for legalizing rape. And I thought that his commentary was possibly the worst commentary ever made. How he fucked up a commentary on someone unintentionally supporting rape, I'll never know. But you can sure check out me trying to understand what went wrong on the YouTube Dude 101 archive channel. Snake didn't like my video because I called him an SJW and parroted a lot of points from a podcast that covered him. I thought that reasoning was stupid because he was discrediting me for one tiny potshot, and I did bring in new points, such as using not only one, but all of his sources against him, something no other commentator who covered his video did. I was giving you the benefit of the doubt if you didn't continue on by saying that rape culture is not an epidemic for men, when, judging by those statistics and possibilities and how generalizing you're being right now to the entire gender of male for this crime, one can argue otherwise. All three of your sources, all three of them, and they went against your argument. That's a fucking record.
YouTube Dude, if you want your target to listen to you, I don't think calling them a social justice warrior will give the impression of someone wanting to help. If I were the one you were labeling an SJW, I wouldn't be inclined to hear what you had to say either, regardless of if you're right or wrong.
Yeah, that's not entirely wrong. Being called a social justice warrior isn't exactly a good way to get someone to want to listen to you. However, YouTube Dude was more saying that Snake was ignoring him primarily because they were being called an SJW over anything else, which is substantially more petty. Not to mention me ignoring how social justice warrior wasn't as discredited of a term back in 2017 to 2018 as it is today. Also, the clip you're using from your first commentary on Snake does a wimpy job at proving your point, since we don't actually see the sources you use against Snake in their video. Also, no examples of other people who covered them aside from you? What we got was that a podcast that did Snake's video before you did, and that's why Snake didn't listen to your first commentary on them. This is just me asking YouTube Dude to prove a negative. The onus for proving it wrong would be on me to look back at the videos that covered Snake's Rush V commentary to see if YouTube Dude made points not present in them, which, assuming it's even possible at this point, would have been quite a bit of legwork for me to do over something so minor in the long run. Like, maybe you show your sources better in your description, but no one can verify it now considering your channel was wiped clean out of nowhere a few years back. worst thing is I can't even blame you for that last part, so shame on you, YouTube!
Oh, also some Capcom titles at the time required an online connection to play. The most upsetting thing about that is I can't even fault Sony for that one, so shame on you, Capcom!
Larvesta, is ripping off Josh Gorger and other content creators just your shtick now? Because of that moment, as well as this line you put in your script aping off of YouTube Dude's video in this chain or anything to go by, I don't think people would doubt it.
Glad to see you still have a shitty intro that drags on for way too long and has clips that are lazily put together, considering some match up with the music and some don't. At least you're not using Movie Maker anymore. That's not saying much. Actually, that makes it worse. Now you have no excuse for this shit.
22 seconds. How is that dragged out? Furthermore, how are the clips lazily put together? Arbitrarily not matching up to the music is not especially noticeable without someone pointing it out like you did.
Yeah, this incoherent montage intro is giving me several forms of blood cancer. Please change it to something that won't drive me to suicide, okay? Okay.
How is this intro incoherent? Would you mind explaining yourself like how I did with your intro? Or is explaining yourself just too hard for you?
Honestly, YouTube Dude, consider yourself lucky you don't have an intro of your own for me to continue this intro roasting section. Your point isn't even invalid given how vague Snake was with their critique, but given your own attempt, you're not as better as you think.
Well, not exactly. YouTube Dude at least tried to explain what made Snake's intro as dragged out as it was, whereas Snake just said, "This is garbage, change it to something else," without going into specifics. Now, one could argue that YouTube Dude's criticisms weren't good to begin with, which I did in my video, but in any case, it's not hypocrisy when he at least gave pointers Snake could learn from.
Humor on network. This will allow me now to summon 4 of my boss monsters. Good game.
It is. I mean, all of his videos. Top 10 best, top 10 worst, top 10 blah 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 blah. Just like Watch Mojo. And they're so clickbaity, and that's why they get views that are often in the thousands or even millions. It's ridiculous. He's unoriginal, and I think his video style needs a major overhaul.
Wait, did I just play 2 skip cards back to back? Okay. So, for the record, the 13-second gap in between my 2 skip portions was Kablam's part of the video, which I left in for the sake of context to hit Douglas's point. I could, and really should, have addressed this in the skip card to avoid confusion as to why I had 2 timestamps in my skip card. That was my bad.
If countdowns didn't have an audience, if people didn't care about this, they wouldn't watch them and people wouldn't make them. And to criticize Phantom Strider for making countdowns is incredibly hypocritical coming from the likes of you. This is coming from the same guy who made a top 10 list on his favorite albums from his favorite band, They Might Be Giants. Do you even know self-awareness, Kablam? Do you really? Because I honestly can't believe anybody could be this stupid.
Yes, because an ad hominem that doesn't even work as hypocrisy, given how Phantom Strider is famous for making countdowns and Kablam isn't, totally proves his point wrong, am I right? Do you enjoy being a fuckwit?
Please, shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about. Even if Kablam wasn't famous for making countdowns, he still could have made countdowns. But hey, broken logic totally proves someone wrong, right? This better not become a chain.
No, YouTube Dude, Snake does know what they're talking about with their plagiarized point. Last I checked, people more remembered Kablam for his commentaries on Mr. Enter over any countdowns he could have made. Even if he did make countdowns, your lack of examples makes it hard to verify as such, especially given what you're going to bring up in your final thoughts.
This was meant to allude back to a point YouTube Dude made in the part I skipped between Douglas and Snake's interjections.
Huh. Maybe you should look in the mirror once in a while, Douglas, because you're being pretty fucking stupid right now. You going on and on about how countdowns have an audience is just proving Kablam's point on why Famstrider would do countdowns to appeal to an audience in the first place. And then you're trying to catch Kablam's hypocrisy by saying he did, oh what, 1 countdown? The key letter in countdowns is S. You need to provide more than 1 example in this case to prove that Kablam is just like Famstrider, according to the logic you interpreted from him. Otherwise, you fail.
The fact YouTube Dude got into Douglas's case for only bringing up 1 example felt self-defeating when Snake was, frankly, on the same line of thinking, albeit not elaborated as well. If YouTube Dude wanted to show that Snake's ad hominem accusation was fruitless, I felt he should have given examples of the other countdowns Kablam had made. That's what I was trying to get at here. Even still, YouTube Dude was only bringing up a hypothetical, so he didn't need more examples in this instance. Not helping matters was that the way I explained things wasn't entirely clear, not least of all due to me skipping YouTube Dude's part against Douglas.
And while America definitely has a good portion of the best cartoons of all time, they also have a good portion of the worst cartoons of all time. So,
well, maybe that's because America is a huge country, both...
Yeah, no, I'm not playing this all over again. The least I could have done was speed up this portion of the video, especially since the build-up was for a joke that didn't even do much to stand out in this whole chain. In any case, my handling of this point was dragged out and not funny at all. Skipping.
Humor on network. This will allow me now to summon 4 of my boss monsters. Good game.
Are you fucking serious right now? You can't possibly be serious right now. I don't know if you know this, Kablam, but Phantom Strider has plenty of lists on good cartoons. You do know that, right? Maybe if you weren't so lazy and actually bothered to do some fucking research for once, you would know this.
Oh my god, you fucking bug-eyed faggot!
Someone's triggered.
And thus, the great Twitter thread commentary was born. Okay, back on topic. Snake and YouTube dude, you two are being a pair of unlikable pests right now. Seriously, throwing around slurs like the F word and triggered the way you did is only going to make people not want to listen to what you have to say, regardless of how valid your points are. Calm down, you two!
Keep tabs on my interjection here. It's gonna be important later.
He was referring to when Phantom said worst cartoons of all time, and was saying that Phantom's channel fits that title too. Why do I have to explain a joke to you?
Because it was a shitty one that made no sense. Seriously, how does Fam Strider fall under worst cartoons of all time? Is Fam Strider a cartoon now? I mean, yeah, that is what the joke was, and good on you for pointing it out.
No, YouTube dude. Kablam's joke was that Phantom Strider's channel was primarily about riffing on bad cartoons, as Douglas pointed out. Shame that one of the times you gave Snake credit where credit was due was a time they messed up their argument. What joke? We don't get to see Kablam's part of the chain here because you decided to conveniently skip it over with the reason of her not important.
That means it's time once again to delve into some of the worst cartoons of all time.
That sentence alone pretty much summed up his entire channel.
So just because he gives his opinion on what he thinks are the worst cartoons of all time, that means his channel is completely based on ripping on bad cartoons and nothing else.
Alright. The reason I skipped over this part was because I was too focused on the part with Snake and YouTube Dude's immature one-liners, and forgot to include this part for context when it became important. A better way to go about this would have been me speeding up the skip portion so I could focus on Snake and YouTube Dude for a moment, then when the second point came, viewers would be aware of what I would be alluding to.
That kid Douglas, your video is exactly what I was talking about when I said in my co-op doodle how much nothing so hypocrisy usually adds to the discussion. I mean, if you want to say Kablam should practice what he preaches, fine. If you want to even make a one-off pot shot at Kablam if his hypocrisy means, fine. Hypocrisy itself doesn't add much argument-wise, but it makes for a good pot shot. I should know, Ponder and I made a pot shot based off hypocrisy in a co-op we did, but if your entire commentary is full of nothing but you saying, hey, you're making this point, well, you're no better, LOLXD, then all your commentary amounts to is nothing but fluff, whether you like it or not. I'm hoping you don't, in which case, fix it.
That's all for Douglas then? Yeah, he did make a lot of points that basically amount to no you complaints, but you did point out other things wrong with him besides that. His point regarding how the United States was large and had a lot of good and bad cartoons, for example. I mean, if that's the main thing you wanted to get onto Douglas for in your final thoughts, that's fine, I guess. But let's not pretend that was the only problem with his video. I don't know what I was thinking when I made this point. Final thoughts aren't meant to be a laundry list of every problem the target had with their video. Heck, I got into Sean S for that exact thing back in 2018, so how I let this slip by is beyond my imagination. The example I use isn't even that good either, given that YouTube Dude was getting onto the entire chain for repeating the exact same point against each other, not just Douglas.
Finally, Kablam. Like I said, there was going to be a try-out with me, Reaper, and Mav on your video. However, I never got around to it. Regardless, there is something I really want to bring to your attention here, because this has been bugging me about you for a while now. I'll start with the positives, and since I haven't commentated on you since May, here's what you've improved on since then. I can hear you clearly now. You have points. They're not good points, but the points are there. You're actually doing a commentary and not some reaction video on a kid raging at Chuck E. Cheese's. That's it.
Aren't arbitrary and meaningless pauses just fun?
Maybe if they were arbitrary and meaningless, but here, YouTube Dude was pausing to show that he was struggling to think of positives with Kablam's videos, so no.
Now, I think it's kind of sad that people misunderstood Kablam's videos, but I also didn't think it was necessary for Kablam to delete them. He could have just explained that the videos weren't meant to be taken seriously and keep them up. Then I realized something. Kablam always deletes his stuff when he gets under too much flack. His rant on the PC Master Race being gaming racism disappearing, his video addressing Doodle and Macboy when they critiqued him disappearing, and even his attempt to quit commentaries and delete all of his commentaries to start food reviews, only to come back 2 weeks later reflect this. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, there's a reason it's happening 99% of the time, Kablam. It's because your content keeps being stained by the same problems over and over and over again. Now I'm not talking about just your commentaries, I'm talking about your retarded rants and your pathetic excuses for food reviews.
And? Anything about his countdowns? No? Well, now your earlier point about Snake's ad hominem interjection just got a whole lot more groundless. Whoops.
You still have poor production values, you're still terribly unentertaining, you still repeat yourself, you still drag on shit to no end, etc., etc. Problems may vary on what type of videos you make, like making a food review off of fucking toothpaste, but other than that, all your content is equally terrible. Here's my advice. If you want to stop getting backlash on stuff like your PC Master Race rants and your commentaries, start taking criticism that'll help you. Otherwise, you might as well just get ahead of the game and delete your channel, because your reception ain't gonna get any better if you don't start taking criticism that'll help you. I'm done.
Okay, if I could leech off of Miroki's video on me for a sec. Wow, are YouTube Dude's final thoughts here just toxic. YouTube Dude in this tirade resorted to the absolute least charitable conclusion possible in regards to Kablam deleting his videos, basically saying Kablam was simply removing them for the sake of cowering away from criticism instead of simply viewing them as old shames, giving Kablam the ultimatum of get better or go away. And sure, revelations that came out since YouTube Dude's video didn't help much on Kablam's end, but there was no way he could have reasonably known about such. Ugh. And yet all I did in this part here was ask for citations for a hypothetical brought up earlier instead of chewing on YouTube Dude for his whole tangent. Like, seriously, past me, he dropped the R slur in the middle of his rant, and you didn't so much as make a visual gag in response to it. TLDR, YouTube Dude screwed up big time here, and his big screw up went completely over my head. Ugh.
Snake, it's pretty obvious at this point that I thought you were the most egregious one in this entire thing. And the funny thing is, it's not even because I hate you the most. Your commentaries are just that terrible.
Would you look at that? A poisoned well! This'll be fun! Larvesta, that's not how the term works. Poisoning a well refers to painting someone in a bad light before they get the chance to talk. By this point, Snake's bad behavior had already been put on stage for everybody to watch. If anybody's poisoned Snakes, well, at this point, it's Snake themselves. A better place to put this interjection, at least relatively, would have been right after YouTube Dude's opening statements. After that is whatever. There's some things I could see being brought up, but at this point, I'm just ready to move on to my final thoughts. This was a lot of the same problems I had with my pro-Jared commentary. When I wasn't completely missing the point of what the previous degrees were trying to say, I was using terms and arguments in places where they weren't valid. There's also the numerous production critiques I could bring up here, with my redundant degree markers despite YouTube Dude already having markers of his own, the points in my degree where the start of my line wasn't picked up, and the small text on my screen that isn't exactly the easiest to read on certain monitors. Fun fact, when I was recording lines and looking back at the earlier videos of the chain, I had a gut feeling in me that some of the arguments I was making weren't valid, only for me to just ignore them and continue on with making my video out of what I presumed was an extreme case of a sunk cost fallacy. Overall, if I didn't make it clear enough already, this was a big oops on my end. In any case, this is Blazing Larvesta. Here's hoping for better videos to come.